Okay, welcome back to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you another off-season video. We're going to be talking college football in this video, and we're talking trap games. So as we get closer to the college football season, preseason predictions are going to be coming out. Prognosticators are going to be coming out with what they believe is going to happen with this team and with that team. I'm gonna do the same thing as we get a little closer to the season. But right now, I'm looking at the preseason top 5 teams and what are the biggest trap games and whether or not it'd be worth doing an early future bet on them as far as doing the spread on them if the spread is already out. And I'll let you guys know what the spread is if the spread is out, and if it's something I would be looking at doing if and when the spread does come out. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into it, starting with preseason number 1 ranked Texas Longhorns. So Texas is coming into the season with all the hype for good reason. Arch Manning, they got stars all over the defense. They got a great duo at running back. They got good enough wide receivers. There's a lot of talent on the Texas Longhorns. So it makes a lot of sense that they're coming in preseason number 1 and as a legit national title contender. And I believe they are that as well. But then, you're looking at the schedule. You got a couple of landmines here, landmines there, but the biggest trap that I'm seeing for Texas this season is the Arkansas Razorbacks. And why do I say that? This is late in the year. This is November 22nd. This is going to be the second to last game of the season. This game is perfectly sandwiched. It's at home, but it's sandwiched between a game against Georgia, which is going to be on the road in Athens. Georgia's going to be competing for the college football playoff and maybe a bid into the SEC title game. And then it's going to come before a home rivalry game against Texas A&M. So this is 2 massive games in terms of magnitude for the college football season, but also emotionally for the players and for the fan base of the Texas Longhorns. These are 2 huge games. Then you got Arkansas right in the middle of that. Arkansas team that's probably going to be wrapping up the Sam Pittman era. I don't think they're going to fire him during the season, but I believe this is going to be his last season as a coach for Arkansas. They'll be probably playing hard for him. They want to give it 100% effort. Then you got Taylor Green at quarterback. Taylor Green is an up and down kind of QB, but he's the kind of quarterback that when he gets hot, man, he can get rolling. He can get on a roll and he can make some big plays, both with his legs and his arms. It's good enough to keep Arkansas in the game. Then you got to look at the rivalry factor. A lot of people probably watching this probably don't realize that Texas and Arkansas is actually a rivalry from back in the old SWAC days, way back in the 80s and so on. Texas doesn't really look at Arkansas as a rival, but Arkansas fans, find some Arkansas fans, they absolutely hate Texas. So there's gonna be, even though it's not at home, right? It's in Austin. There's gonna be some Arkansas hate there. I'm sure there's gonna be some Arkansas fans that are gonna show up, and they're gonna get as rowdy as they possibly can do on the road. Throwing the fact, let down after the Georgia game. I mean, the Georgia game is massive. I mean, if Texas goes into Athens and wins that game, if you watch college football, there's going to be a letdown the next game. And then you got A&M the next week. Now, this is a dangerous, dangerous trap game. That's why on my trap meter, 4 out of 5. There are no spreads out for this game yet, but this is one where I'm going to look before the season kicks off. They have a spread come out in August before the season kicks off, and I see it in double digits. Man, I would look to take Arkansas with the points in that one. It's a dangerous game for the Longhorns. Okay, moving on to the next team that's preseason number 2. It is the defending national champions, Ohio State. Now, Ohio State, I think they got a pretty nice schedule set up this season to defend their national title. They open with Texas in the opener, then they got some nonsense they got to play, and then at the end of the year, really, it's just about Penn State and Michigan, but they're well placed in the schedule to where they can give their full focus to those teams. In the middle of the season, they got this stretch, right, where they're going to go on the road to play a decent Washington Huskies team that's got the best running back in the Big Ten, and Jonah Coleman. Nobody knows who he is. Trust me, he's the best running back in the Big Ten. Then they'll host Minnesota, and then they're going to go on the road against everybody's preseason top 15 darling, Illinois. Now, I already did a video where I'm fading Illinois, so I'm not buying into all of that hype. But, they are going to be decent, and if they're still ranked at this point in mid-season, Ohio State's going to have their full focus on this game going on the road. And, Illinois is going to be turning out for that game. So, In between there, you got the home game against Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's a little different. In Minnesota, they're a different type of sandwich. See, that's a sandwich game for Ohio State. Minnesota, they host Rutgers and play Ohio State, and then they host Purdue. So they got BS and trash bookend in this game right here. So Minnesota's going to have their full focus on Ohio State. And that Minnesota D-line is experienced. They got a great edge rusher, Anthony Smith. They got two really good defensive tackles. They can give Ohio State's offensive line a pretty good run for their money. So that's going to be an interesting matchup there. And then you got the new Ohio State quarterback, Julian Sayin, breaking in a new QB. Minnesota's got two safeties. They were freshmen last year. Man, those guys are athletes. Kerry Brown, Corey Parrish, those guys are athletes on the back end. They're going to surprise you about how good they really are. I think a lot of people probably have no idea who they are, but they're athletic, talented safeties they got on the back end. So they could give Ohio State some issues passing the ball, or for Ohio State passing the ball as well. Now, at the end of the day, it's Minnesota. There's not a lot of talent offensively. They got a good running game. They'll have a good running back in Darius Taylor, but we don't know what they're going to have at quarterback. I don't think they've even announced a QB yet. There's still a quarterback competition going on, and it's likely going to be somebody who hasn't played. Receivers are all new. They go into the transfer portal, get up a whole bunch of guys. So offensively is going to be tough sledding for Minnesota, but this is a game that could turn into a defensive slugfest. So that's why I turned into a 3 out of 5 in terms of trap level meter. Whether or not there's no spread out for this game yet, but even if it comes out before the season kicks off, I would just stay away from this game because I don't think Minnesota has enough offense to really pull off that upset. Moving on to preseason number 3, it is Penn State. A lot of people picking Penn State to win a national title this season for good reason. They got a pretty veteran roster coming back, and they have an absolutely cake of a schedule. Their schedule, this schedule. You take a look at Penn State's schedule when you get the chance. It's basically Ohio State. They do get Oregon at home, but that game's already been announced as a whiteout. There's basically no shot that Oregon is going to win that game in Happy Valley. So it's really just all about the Penn State Ohio State game. But, you look at this and you say, okay, well, where's a trap game? Because it can't all be easy for Penn State this season. So you take a look at this stretch late in the season. You got that at Ohio State game, which is Penn State's season. It's their Super Bowl. They're waiting to finally knock off Ohio State. After Ohio State, they got to host Indiana. They were 11-1 last year, and they're not gonna just fall off the map. But Indiana's gonna still, in my opinion, they can contend for the college football playoff again. They got a good team. So that's a tough team to play in what's going to be a letdown situation for Penn State. But then let's say they get past them. They got the road game against Michigan State, and then they'll have to play against Nebraska and Dylan Raiola, who I believe is the best quarterback in the Big Ten the week after. So right in there, you forget all about Michigan State. I think Penn State might forget all about Michigan State, and people might not realize this is actually a rivalry game. I don't think either team takes it that serious, but it is actually a rivalry game. But it's a game that it's easy for Penn State to lose sight of with Ohio State, an Indiana team that's probably still going to be good. Dylan Raiola and Nebraska. Michigan State, not really paying attention to them, right? So with emotional fatigue, as I say, setting in, it's going to be easy for them to look past the Spartans. And the key matchup in this game is going to be about quarterback Aiden Childs from Michigan State hitting off Nick Marsh. Aiden Childs is up and down, man. He can be a turnover machine, but I've also seen him make some plays. He can keep you in the game. Nick Marsh is definitely a stud wide receiver. I'll be surprised if he actually ends his career in Michigan State. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tries to get him in the portal this upcoming offseason for 2026. So you hit a couple plays early in the ball game deep, you get Penn State kind of nervous, Penn State sleepwalking. You kind of get in a situation where Michigan State can make it a game, it's wrong time, not really paying attention, get scored on early, maybe you start to sweat. It's one of those situations. Again, trap level, 2 out of 5. I don't think the Michigan State is going to be that good, especially defensively, so Penn State can do what they want on that side of the ball against their defense. But, it's a situation where it lands in the schedule, Penn State won't be focused or paying attention to the Spartans. So this is, in my opinion, their biggest trap game of the season and what I believe is a cake schedule for the Nittany Lions. Moving on to preseason number 4. That is the Clemson Tigers. Now, Clemson comes to the season as a runaway favorite to win the ACC, as they should. I believe they're going to win the ACC. Everybody believes they're going to win the ACC. It shouldn't be close. In my opinion, if Clemson beats LSU at home in the opener, and they get LSU, well, like I said, they get LSU in Death Valley. They're going to battle who's the real Death Valley. They got a legit shot of going 12-0 this season because the rest of the schedule is a breeze. It sets up nicely wherever they could potentially have a tough game. They don't really have a stretch of tough games, right? So trying to find a trap game was kind of difficult. So where I can see a potential trap at is in this 3-game stretch. They're going to play a decent Duke team at home. Duke should be decent, bowl team. Then they'll host Florida State. And then they got the revenge trip on the road at Louisville. If you guys don't remember, Louisville went into Clemson last season and beat them, and actually beat them really easily too. So they're going to be looking for that. They can't wait to get back to Louisville for that game. So looking for a trap team, you would say Florida State. Now, the reason I got this a 1 out of 5 is Florida State is still a brand name program. I don't see Clemson overlooking Florida State because this game is still going to have a lot of hype, at least from the media, right? It's Clemson, Florida State. There's still going to be some buzz around this game. When you're looking at the matchup that could potentially scare Clemson, I would say it's Clemson's offensive line, which has a ton of experience, but they're not really next level type players. So that's why they're still in school instead of leaving early for the draft. But they got a lot of cohesiveness, a lot of experience, and they're going to go into Florida State defensive line that has experience of its own and some decent players on it. I think they match up well. If Florida State wins that matchup, it could cause some issues and maybe put a scare into Clemson. But the reality is, let's be real. This is the softest trap game I have on the board out of all top 5 teams. It's a name brand opponent. Clemson, again, they're not going to overlook this team. If FSU's D line somehow finds a way to overwhelm the Clemson O line, it's going to give them a shot in this game. But other than that, I don't think Florida State has a shot in this game. So it's another game I would stay away from if any preseason odds came out on it. And then finally, 5th preseason top 5 team is the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, Georgia's coming in the season preseason top 5, and I can tell you right now, out of the top 5 teams, this is the one that I would bet is not going to finish in the top 5 at the end of the season. Georgia's going to have some L's this season, at least a couple. I'm not saying they won't make the college football playoff. Maybe they get in at 9-3, but they're going to lose some games this season. This is not a top 5 football team. That are not the same dominant team that we've seen in recent years. There's been a ton of turnover in Georgia talent. Georgia's lost a lot of players over the last several years that have gone on to the NFL. And then with transfer portal and NIL and all this other stuff going on, some of the players that they normally would have got, they've gone elsewhere, right? Some of the players they've had, they've gone elsewhere. Then you're going against Auburn. Auburn was a very young. Auburn went 5-7 last year. But if you were paying attention, they had a ton of freshmen playing and a ton of freshmen who showed that they can play, making freshman mistakes. Coming into their sophomore year, this is a young, hungry team. I think this team is loaded with breakout talent. And the game is in Jordan-Hare. I got this as a 5 out of 5. And check out this stretch here that Georgia's going to have. They're going to host Alabama in the rematch of the game of the year of 2024, right? So they're going to be focused on that. There's going to be the letdown game. It's going to be against Kentucky. Kentucky stinks. They're going to win the game. Then they have at Auburn in what is known as the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So it's a rivalry game. And then they host Ole Miss, another revenge game. They went to Ole Miss last year and they got slapped. So Georgia's going to be focused on the bookend. Georgia or Alabama and Ole Miss, Georgia's going to be focused on that. Kentucky, letdown. Auburn, right there, sandwiched in the middle of there. And a road game in Jordan-Hare. I can't see Georgia getting up 100% for Bama, 100% for Auburn, and 100% for Ole Miss. I just don't see it. I can't see it. So I don't think they're going to take Auburn as serious. I don't think they're going to be as focused, especially with Ole Miss coming along the next week. And then the key matchup in this, Auburn's got a hell of a trio. They might have the best trio of receivers in the SEC. Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, and Eric Singleton transfers in from Georgia Tech. Against the Georgia DBs, these aren't the same Georgia DBs that you were like, that guy's going to the NFL, that guy's going to the NFL, that guy's going to the NFL. That's not this Georgia secondary. They got some players, they're good college players, but they're not the same dogs they've had out there on the back end. I don't know if this is a good matchup for Georgia's secondary in this game. So my take is this: I believe this. This is why I got a 5 out of 5. I believe this since March. I believe that Auburn is going to win this game. I don't like it. Oh, and by the way, before they play, Auburn is going to have a bye the week before. So Georgia's going through the stretch. Auburn's going to have a bye before this game. So everything is setting up for Auburn to pull off this massive upset at home on October 11th. I don't like the matchup for the DBs for Georgia. I'd love it more if Auburn was starting Ashton Daniels at quarterback. I think he's better than Jackson Arnold, but they've already announced Jackson Arnold as a starter. But even with that said, there already is a spread out in this game. So Auburn is coming in as a 7-point underdog today. I would do that. I would do that right now. I'll take the +7 right now because I think Auburn's going to win this game, and I would wait till the game week 2 to see what the spread is that day. But I would take Auburn with 7 right now. There's no way they're going to lose this game by double digits. I don't think they're going to lose the game at all. So, anyways, that wraps it up. Those five, the five trap games for the top 5 coming into this college football season. If you agree, disagree, all of that, like, comment, subscribe, as you're going to see more off-season videos as we continue to get towards the start of the college football season. Take care.